6-year-old named Therese, who is a firecracker, a 3-year-old named Catherine, who is another little firecracker, but maybe just not as, outgoing as the oldest. And then my youngest is John, who is 1. And so life is very full. Life has little sleep, which apparently lots of you don't get sleep either, right? Because y'all stay up till 1 hour tonight. So you see, we're kind of the same. And so anyway, tonight I'm going to talk to you guys, about identity, right? And so what does the word identity mean? Well, we have to go back. It comes from a Latin word that I'm not going to say because I don't know how to pronounce words correctly. And so but it comes from a Latin word that basically is translated as state of being the same. Right? So our identity, in a sense, does not change. It's something that is unchanging. It's something that you always are. No matter what, you are that identity no matter what happens in your life. And this is sometimes very, very confusing because to the world, right, they like to say that our identity is found, yes.
What do you want me to do there?
She wants to talk on the mic, so pause.
Say it very quickly because I gotta get back.
Well, there you go. Alright, she's going to stay with me, and we're just going to go with it. That's going to be okay. Okay, so back to our identity. So the world kind of confuses us a little bit because in growing, we think that our identity is found in lots of various things. Kind of like the things that we do, right? Like we like to say that my identity is the fact that I'm a football player, or I play baseball, or that I'm a cheerleader, or that I'm in drama, or that I'm the smart kid and I make all the A's, right? Like whatever the case may be, that is a lot of times what we think or where we think our identity lies. But that's not necessarily true because those things aren't necessarily constant, right? Because while you may play sports now, you may not necessarily always play sports. And then all of a sudden, if your whole identity is placed in the sport that you play, then you're going to feel lost. Because you're like, am I just wrong now that I'm not playing sports? And the answer is obviously no. And so one of the ways that we know, one of the ways that we know of our identity is through this little acronym called REM. Okay? So identity is found in REM. It means relationship, identity, and mission. And so relationship is obviously dealing with our relationship with God, is going to teach us what our truest identity is. And because we know that true identity from God, right, then we can go out and we can mission into the world, right? And that mission can be various things, right? It could be found in the sports that we play. It could be found in the academics, right? In the clubs that we do. We can mission in those things. But a lot of times, like I was just talking about, we get it mixed up and we get it backwards, right? We live out our mission, right? And that becomes our identity. And then our relationship with God and others are kind of put on the back burner, right? Because we don't fully know and we're not fully living where our identity lies. And so this is in a sense, this is in a sense what a lot of times causes problems. Because even outside of like school, outside of sports, we can sometimes even place our identity in the relationships that we have, right? In the friendships that we have in high school or in like a romantic relationship that we're having. Sorry. Alright, so to recap and get back. So our identity is not found in our mission, right? It's not found in necessarily the relationships we have, even though those are very, very important. It's like if I'm dating somebody and then all of a sudden I'm not dating them, right? I don't lose who I am, right? I don't lose my identity. But the tendency is to place your identity into the people who you're in a relationship with, whether that be romantically or through friendships. But ultimately, right, all of us, right, we have an identity that comes from God, right? And the truest identity that both you and I have is that we are a son or a daughter of God. And that's it, right? Everything else that I talked about, the sports that we play, what we produce, who we hang out with, all of that stuff can change throughout our life, right? The music we listen to, the books we read, the shows that we watch, what type of social media app is current, right? All of that changes. But the thing that is unchanging is that you are a child of God, right? You're a son or you're a daughter. But let me ask you, do you actually believe that? Do you believe that you are a son of God? Do you believe that you're actually a daughter of God? Right? Because a lot of times we don't believe that, right? We struggle with understanding and believing that identity because we think about God and we're like, yeah, God loving us and loving the world, that's so nice, right? But in practicality, is it actually a fact, right? And we struggle with believing that here in our heart, right? You can learn it, right? You can know it. You can make A's on the test with it. But if it doesn't transfer to your heart, to where you actually feel it, and you are feeling delighted by the Lord, then it's not going to do anything. And then the mission that you're trying to live out in the world isn't going to actually produce that much fruit. Because you don't actually know who you actually are. And the thing is that none of us can know who we are until God tells it to us. A couple years ago, I've been using this, and some of my former students may remember this analogy because I gave it out whenever I read it all those years ago. Pope Francis was giving a talk on family. And one of the things that he said that really, really stuck with me is that children, right, psychologists say that children learn their identity from their parents, right? And from the fact that their parents are playing with them or hanging out with them, right? And me, as a current parent, right, playing pretend for 5 minutes is a lot, right? My children want to play pretend for like an hour, okay? Which seems like forever because you're trying to make up all of these intricate games because they don't know how to play pretend, right? They don't know how to use their imagination. They're like 3 or 2 or 1, right? You have to teach them all of these things. But I feel like when I'm playing pretend with my kids that I'm wasting my time, right? I need to be doing the laundry. I need to be doing stuff for my job. I need to be, cooking. I need to do all the things else, right? But the best thing I can do for my children is to waste time with them. It's to stay with them playing pretend. Because what I'm teaching them is that I'm teaching them that they matter, that I care about them, that I see them, and that I love them, right? That's what I'm doing as a parent, which is very, very difficult, right? And unfortunately, right, we all experience that with our parents. But then we grow. And what happens in the world as we grow? We get wounded, right? And our parents are not perfect parents. They don't always delight in us in the way that we wish that they would delight in us. And that leaves wounds inside of us, right? Wounds from our parents, wounds from friends, wounds from family members. And so those wounds keep us, right, from actually truly remembering that we are a daughter or a son of God. And so, you know who needs to tell us that we're back to being a daughter or son of God? God. So you know what you need to do? You need to waste time with God. How do you waste time with God? You sit with Him in prayer, right? I'm sure you all got talked about prayer, and how prayer is basically just having a conversation with God. It's all prayer is. But prayer is literally putting yourself in front of the Creator, right? In the tabernacle, exposed outside the tabernacle, in your prayer space at your house, right? Sitting there and allowing God to delight in you so that He can tell you how amazing you are. Because the thing is that we don't realize how amazing we are because we don't actually believe it, because we don't actually love ourselves as God loves us. But you can't go out into the world and love the world as Christ does until you learn to love yourself as Christ loves you. And the only way that you can do that is by Him telling you how amazing you are. Because you are, right? And I'm telling you, to the room full of teenagers, who know 90-100% of you have insecurities. I have insecurities and I'm an adult, right? We don't believe these things about ourselves. But we have to start trying. Because it's in coming to believe in this stuff, right, that we will be able to set the world on fire, like St. Catherine of Siena says. That we can go out and mission and love people in the way that we're called to love, in the way that the apostles loved. They loved because they allowed Jesus to delight in them for 3 years, right? Learning from them, but they allowed him to love them, right? To be with them. And the thing is that in order to sit with God, you have to actually sit with God with everything of who we are, right? Who in here knows about emotional walls, right? How we put up walls around our hearts. And we don't want to feel our emotions, and we don't want to go back to that time in the past when that girl didn't invite me to her party because it really struck a chord, right? It's like, but the Lord really wants to heal us from all of that. Because when you sit in front of God, you can't really hide. You can try. You can put up your little walls. You can act like you're not going to talk to him about some of this stuff, but he already knows. And the longer you wait to open up those walls to him, the longer it's going to take you to actually be fully healed, to come to fully know who you are, and to be able to love others in the way that you're desiring to love others, right? And so a lot of the times what we do with the walls, right, is that we try to numb the experiences that we have had in our lives, right? Like, I don't want to think about this pain, I don't want to think about this one. So what do? We numb it. How do we numb it? We numb it using TV, right? And watching endless hours of Netflix, okay? We numb it on social media, scrolling upon scrolling, because if I scroll, then I don't actually have to think about my life, right? Or we do it through all the temptations that exist in high school, right? With drinking, with partying, with drugs, with sex, with all of these things, right? The temptation's all there. Why? It's to make you not become fully who you are, right? It's to tempt you to not allow God to actually love you and heal you. And it's hard, right? And when you think about it, you're like, at the end of the day, if my purpose in life and your purpose in life, which it is, to be a saint, right? If that's your goal is to make it to heaven. So at the end of the day, just all of these distractions that I just talked about actually matter. No. Because if it keeps you from having the relationship with the Lord that you actually desire, because I know you do, because you're here, right? You desire a deep relationship with the Lord. And so the only way you're going to get there is by showing up and allowing him to heal you, and allowing him to delight in you, and allowing him to teach you who you actually are, right? Teaching you that you are a wonderful son of him. You are a beautiful daughter that he delights in constantly, right? And it's in those ways where we come to know our identity that we can be set forth. I had a conversion back to my faith in college. And so it's been about 10 years now that I've actually been living this life and trying to grow in my relationship with the Lord. And I'm telling you right now, just in this last year, have I actually begun to understand what it means to believe that I'm his daughter, right? Because I had a lot of healing. Because I numbed a lot of my pain. I numbed a lot of my wounds for a long time. And then the minute that I finally started to, okay, I'm going to search for healing, it takes a while, right? Healing doesn't happen overnight. It takes a little bit by little bit, and the Lord is going to take you on your own journey with the healing that you're so desiring. But now that I have experienced incredible, borderline miraculous healing, the love that I feel from the Father, the identity that I know that I am his daughter, yeah, it's extraordinary. It's freeing. I feel free. I feel joyful all the time. And I want to give that joy to others. I feel like I'm better able to love my kids, love my husband, love my friends, love you guys, right? It comes more easily because I know more of who I am, right? And will continue to hopefully grow in that identity over time, right? Because it's not something that just stops, right? It's a constant journey. But my encouragement to you guys is don't wait as long as I did, right? Do it now. Those of you that were in my class, we talked about habits and how if you wait 50 years to begin to break a habit, is it going to be easy or harder? Harder, right? You only have 3 15, 16, 17 years, right, of habits. Seems like a long time. It's a lot less than 30, right? Which is my age, in case you didn't know. And so, right, so the quicker or the earlier you start breaking these habits, the earlier you start forming the good habits of prayer, the better off you're going to be in your life. Which is why me and all of the theology department and all of your teachers here on campus do what we do. It's because we love you. And we want you to have a better life than what we have. We want you to experience God's love in a deeper way than how we experience. So that you guys can go out there and set the world on fire. Because I don't know about you, like in a good way, right? So I don't know about you, but the world needs that, right? And so it needs all the love that it can take, the real love.